I probably way overpay my team because I want them to always view themselves as true partners or owners in where we're going. And could I possibly find laborers for far cheaper and have bigger margins? Sure. But it's of no interest to me to be a genius with 1,000 hands. I mean, frankly, I'm ruled out already because I'm neither a genius nor do I have 1,000 hands. But that's how a lot of people try to run their business, right? Is they're the only one doing any thinking, and then they try to delegate to those who don't have capacity to think but only do, and they become a glorified babysitter. I don't have the wherewithal to do that.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through accounting, CFO, and consulting services. Now, this is season 2, $1 Million Agencies. And I had to put my feelers out. I had to say, hey, people, I need some dope guests to come on to the show and help the people, give the people value, tell them different ways to grow their businesses or different road bumps to jump. And so, now I'm starting to know enough people where they're like, hey, this person may not be an agency, but they do this blah, 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 blah that really supports agencies and can help them. So somebody recommended this person, and right before the call, right before this episode, I found out that apparently he lives like 20 minutes up the road from me. So this is about to get really interesting. But everybody, welcome to the podcast. My guy, Grant. What's going on, man?
Good to be here, Cameron. I appreciate you having me, brother.
All right. So tell the people name of the company, what you do, and how long you've been doing it so they can get a feel for the greatness.
Yes, sir. I'm Grant Tylerton. I own a small portfolio of businesses in the fintech space. We've got Free Life Funding, Gyrify, and Finish Line Finance are our predominant arms. We provide customer financing solutions for dental, home improvement, and online education based businesses to make it easier to transact with customers and scale their companies profitably. Prior to that, for about 10 years, I was commission only sales across a few different industries, mostly remote, sales management, sales training, and all that good stuff. So I've been around the phones for a while, and it's definitely a passion of mine to help people increase their earning potential. And it's fun. It'll be interesting to have a conversation like this with you because we see both sides of the coin, right? Bringing in, and then you are management, and how do we make sure too much doesn't go out, right? And what's funny, at least in my experience, especially with onboarding larger merchants, that have more of an established org structure with finance, accounting, sales, marketing being a little bit disjointed, there tends to be a lack of proper communication that ultimately sets up businesses properly to be able to scale. So I love that we get to have a conversation like this and kind of bring both sides to the coin and maybe even be a vital bridge for a lot of your audience that doesn't get to have the full well-rounded picture. So I'm excited. It'll be a fun day.
Yes. All right. I'm taking now. Everybody knows we take notes. Now you just mentioned 3 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go business by business, so that way the people can know like either and how does each business work and who they serve, like which markets, and then how you use them to work all together. Because if y'all haven't noticed, the trend recently with all these guests we've been having is multiple businesses. Most of these people don't just have one, and most of these people have some types of prior sales experience. So let's start with the 3 businesses. Now you named them, name them again, but this time say like this business focuses on this part for this industry.
Yep. Happy to. So just to be abundantly clear, I fell into a trap quite a while ago with the perception that, because the average millionaire has an average of 6 income streams, that it should be a goal to have multiple plates spinning at all times. And frankly, if it were easy for me to have avoided that, I would have, because I am huge on system reliability and optimization. ultimately removing components of a system that draw down the total throughput. Because the more complex a system and the more points of failure, the less reliable and the less efficient. So what I'm not, what I don't want to come across is the perception that, oh, because maybe multiple people that I've met have multiple things that I should too. As long as you can solve your own problem or get where you want to go without overcomplicating, that's the route that is likely going to be the most intelligent. So we started off with free life funding. The whole purpose of this business is to provide customer financing solutions for dental patients, home improvement customers, and then also for students of different online education, mentorship, and service based businesses. And essentially, how free life funding operates is actually more of a consulting style business where we come in and we rework sales processes of companies to implement better financing solutions, which we happen to provide through Gyrify, which is one of our other companies. And I'll get on that, I'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute. Because one of the big things that we found is there's an abundance of tools, but it's how you wield it that delivers the results, right? And so it's not just a matter of giving a company a hammer, it's educating on how and where to swing it so that we actually, put a nail in the wall and hang the picture instead of just put a hole in the wall that requires a drywall patch. So free life funding, again, serves those three industries, makes it very easy for companies to provide customer financing solutions for easier transaction processes. Gyrify is our technology division. So this is where we actually have developed our own proprietary application flows and softwares to be able to integrate lenders into our platform for seamless transaction processes. To make it super simple, this is our division that allows lenders to actually put their products in front of merchants for a simple transaction process. This is also where we're able to private label our tools and processes for different companies to be authorized dealers and supply our products to a greater marketplace. It's more of a behind the scenes business, but it also has developed an AI based tool that allows dental practices specifically to determine what the best patient financing solutions are going to be with the click of a button based on a customer's criteria. Pretty cool. The third one is finish line finance. So there's an interesting thing that happens when a company is fully at capacity with their sales calls, right? Let's just pretend someone's got their rep is doing 6 calls a day, and each are an hour long. Well, when it comes to integrating certain financing solutions into a process like sales process, then we're talking about 10 minutes or so per customer in order to be able to take them from end to end, from hey, if we could make the numbers work, you driving off in this today, to all right, cool, you're onboarded. So if we can reallocate those 10 minutes back to the best reps communicating with new prospects, then we're able to fit an extra call onto the best sales person's calendar each day, right? So finish line finance is essentially an outsourced finisher department. I have to give a little bit of context to that because many online education businesses are frankly just unfamiliar with how to properly integrate financing solutions. We're typically used to a setter and a closer model, but what we actually are able to implement is a setter, closer, finisher model in the same kind of way that car dealerships work, right? Where the person who actually is doing the test drive with you and educating you on the car and then saying, hey, if we can make the numbers work, you're driving off in this today. He's not the guy that sits down and goes over all the numbers and secures financing for you and gives you the keys. That's a different person because that sales rep needs to get back out on the floor and do their job. So the cool thing is the way our companies work, it's always, we won't do anything if it's not a interdependent synergy booster. So Finish Line, Gyrify, and Free Life all operate completely independently, but any one of our different branches succeeding inevitably brings up the rolling average of all of them. It's the rising tide that raises all ships, right? So that's the only reason why we actually have our hands in multiple things, is because we've been able to simplify other components of the total process and be able to make them work synergistically. I feel like I just rambled total mouthful. I don't know if that's useful for anyone, but If there was any lesson to take from it, it's keep things simple until there's no possible way to scale by removing anything else, and you have to add. Most of us go towards adding something to a system in order to make it better. But if we think of the complex nature of multiplicative systems, if we have a 90% effective component and another 90% effective component, total system reliability is not 90%, it's 81, because the components are multiplicative, and anything less than 100 is, it's a decimal, right? So 0.9, 0.9, 81%. So if we have 3 components, 4 components, 5 components, anything less than 100% reliable draws our total system reliability down. So our focus is always on removing the least efficient component before adding anything new. Does that make sense?
I'm tracking,
Okay.
but
Who
let's
knows
talk
if
about the audience. Okay, essentially, in so many words, I'm gonna sum it up because I took my notes. Essentially, he can get you capital, and he created software to make it simple and easy on how to manage and maintain it, and everything works together, pointing in the same direction. And he's just built things around the main thing of the funding in order to make sure you have not only the best experience but can actually utilize it to help you grow your business.
Yeah, and just for clarity, like we specifically provide customer financing solutions, so not like business loans or growth capital equipment loans and things like that. So what we do is we provide an easy way for businesses to offer more advantageous payment terms to their customers, making their products and services more affordable, or even just increasing perceived affordability, so that it's easier for them to scale, as they create a win-win with them being paid upfront in full for the contract value that they're actually signing up customers for, but customers get a deferred low monthly payment. That way you're not dealing with the Trojan horse that is in-house payment plans and collections and all that stuff, but your customers still get the terms that they want.
There you go. All right. Now, let's jump into finances because we touched on it a little bit. Now, you're talking about money. So just, I'm going to keep putting this in my words. So always correct me if I do it wrong. So with merchant services, AKA, let's break this down on an even simpler plane. In other words, you know how when y'all use Stripe and you get paid, but Stripe don't give you all your money? That's what you're talking about. He gonna give you all your money. It's just at the end of the month, he takes out the percentage. But you still got all your money though. You didn't get, if you sold $5,000, you're gonna get your $5,000. You're not gonna get $4,722.83. So this helps you to make more because he probably has a better percentage, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that. Now let's start bringing this to the finances. So on average, how have you seen this increase the top line or gross revenue for other companies?
So let's focus on the online education space, because that seems to be more of your typical audience, correct? Like agencies, coaches, education based companies. Would you say that's true? Is that's more of your typical audience, or do you work with like home improvement or dental and
No,
things
so
like
our number one people that we work with are marketing agencies. So these are people who, SEO websites, PPC, um, what else? Ads, coaching, all of that type of stuff. So that's their number one thing. So they're really big into Stripe. That's
that?
how I
Yep.
know what you're talking about.
Okay. So in that space specifically, what we've noticed is our typical merchant, because we have a large portfolio of merchants that utilize our services, right? And because we work very closely with them, we have a deep understanding of their numbers and where they're at when they start, and then where we're able to take them, because no one implements customer financing solutions without the intention of growing their business, right? So what we found is it takes us on average about 90 days to double the top line revenue for each of our merchants. Now, some are outliers and are able to accomplish that much quicker. But typically with those businesses, they have rock solid fulfillment processes in place already, and they're just not serving at their capacity. And it's a matter of increasing perceived affordability in the sales process that actually drives that. So on average, about 90 days for doubling top line revenue. Now, what we see is about a 5.4x ROAS on average between our accounts that are utilizing our financing services, which is pretty cool because In this current economic climate, ad costs are rising, ad creatives fatigue much faster, especially with, the information age having brought about a much more educated consumer. Not having perceived affordability in a sales process is really detrimental to your numbers, because these are metrics that are really hard to track, right? The customer, for example, when I say perceived unaffordability, this is not even the people who get to the end of sales calls and say, I can't afford it. And then you've got to go through your objection handling process and possibly, create solutions for them. We're talking about the people that see your ad and don't even click it because a perceived premium product carries a perceived premium price point. And many people, in order to avoid the discomfort or embarrassment of not being able to afford what they want, especially in a high pressure sales process, simply won't follow through with the booking of a call, showing up, and even going through the process to get to the point where they say, I can't afford it, right? Perceived unaffordability sabotages way more sales than the vocalized, I can't afford it at the end. So what many of our merchants do is they strategically weave in marketing messaging in the same kind of way. Like I'll often defer to more like legacy industries like car sales or solar or traditional colleges, because the online education space, agencies, and all of that, decades behind most legacy industries, because financing is not yet a standard process. How many cars would move off the lot at 32 grand up front for a Honda Accord? Not many. In fact, not many people would even go into a car dealership if they believed that cars had to be paid for upfront in cash. The commercials are all drive off today for a low payment of $300, right? That's the reason people go there in the first place, is because they perceive they could afford it. Same thing with a
Right.
house. Not many people are going to be cruising Zillow looking at $700,000 houses that they think they have to pay for in cash. They look for the estimated, the Zestimate payment. Well, I
Right.
could budget for 2 grand a month, right? So by actually being able to increase perceived affordability in the sales process, that's why our merchants are able to actually see such dramatic increases in their revenues, because more people show up to the phones, more people believe that it's possible for them, and it actually is, because now merchants are able to provide payment terms without sacrificing their bottom line, because they get paid in full up front when they actually use our financing tools, but the customers still get a low monthly payment. So that's kind of the reason behind the numbers, but it's been pretty cool.
Okay, that makes sense. So perceived value. Now I want to stay right, y'all. My allergies, my sinuses. All right, I want to stay right there because I think perceived value is what marketing is all about, right? How can we take this product or this service and make it look like the best thing in the world that will solve your problems? Now, you talked about some of the different industries, and I love the car dealership and the house example just because I think those are probably two of the more common ones. Now, are you also consulting with said client on different reasons or ways and suggestions on, hey, why don't you position it like this? Like, is there some strategy call in there? Or is it as simple as take the product, it's going to make you more money in 90 to 120 days?
Well, 100%. Because, like I was saying earlier, it's not a matter of having the tool, it's knowing where to wield it and how to do it. Um, we've been in this business for a couple of years now, and we've made our mistakes in believing that financing solutions just make sense for everyone, right? And if you just have the tool, you'll use it effectively. Frankly, that's not the case. And we had to learn the hard way. So now that's why we take a much stronger uh, hold over education and consulting in the sales process itself. I mean, like I mentioned before, I've got 10 years in sales and management of different sales processes and all this stuff. So, like, am I the best in the world? No, I'm sure there are much bigger fish out there, but I know my way around a marketing and a sales process. And there's a few strategic points at which we can weave in um, perceived affordability in order to make it much more simple for us to enroll clients at scale. And so that's why we focus a lot on how do we rework a sales process to reduce friction and make it a much more simple buying experience. Because here's the big thing: if you take nothing else from this episode, because I know we're talking a lot about tools and stuff like that. But from a big picture philosophical standpoint, people love to buy things. We all do. We love to buy things that solve a problem for us. We love to buy things that make our pain go away. We love to buy things that make us feel good, feel significant, growth oriented, connected, all of that. We love to buy things. Just think about Amazon. I mean, how often do we just click the buy now button and it shows up the next day? All the time. We love to buy things. But we hate the feeling of being sold to. Again, we love to buy things, but we just hate the feeling of being sold to. And so by reworking our enrollment processes within a marketing agency, a coaching business, education, all of that good stuff, when we rework our sales process to be focused on creating a compelling buying experience for our customers, we will outsell better salespeople by 10 orders of magnitude easily. Because while everyone else is focusing on how to be a better salesperson, if you focus on how to create a compelling buying experience, then you work with human psychology instead of against it, essentially allowing you to stop swimming upstream and just kick back in your inner tube and float down to where you want to go. Does that help?
I'm with you. I'm with
Okay.
you. I agree. Okay, so let's talk about this now. For those of you who don't know, successful company, he real mellow, real chill right now. And see, y'all know we got cool guests, like people who just we just here to help, serve, etc. To be clear, his company's doing well. He's definitely not on the road to $1 million. He's already passed it. So with that being said, let's kind of get into your stages of growth. So now, how long have you been doing free life funding?
About 2 years.
So 2 years. So how in 2 years do you take it from we're just starting, this is a great idea, let's test it and try to get it out there, to now making over 7 figures in gross top line revenue? Tell us, like, what are maybe 3 things that you did that helped you to get there so fast?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um, Especially because I would love a time capsule to be able to, hey, Grant, 2 years ago, do this instead. um, One of the biggest things that I feel God continues to give me opportunities to learn is properly aligned incentives. Um, for years and years as a sales manager, recruiter, trainer, selling a sales course and a training system and all that good stuff, right? It was always a like, you pay me and then, you do the things and get results. Well, what was really cool is once we shifted, because we originally started with like, hey, we have financing tools, you should use them, go for it. We didn't see all that much success, candidly. But when it really clicked for me that because we only make money when our merchants grow their business and process much more volume than they previously did, then we can give away the farm. We can do everything that we used to charge 5 figures for free for our merchants to help them grow. And so essentially, what I built is a team that I've stolen from a bunch of different high places of sales management and coaching and all that stuff. Some of the people that I view as incredible at teaching and scaling sales teams, brought them onto mine and aligned incentives such that instead of us charging for the education side of things, as long as we can get a merchant past our underwriting process and supply them with our tools, we give them everything from consulting, hands-on support, education, all of that good stuff that, again, we used to charge a lot of money for and people would happily pay for free to align incentives. So big lesson is, how can you as a business owner align your incentives? You want your customers to pay you money and to continue working with you. What do they want? They want to make money and continue to scale. So how can we just always ensure that every component of the conversation, as well as how your offers are set up, are aligning towards the same goal? That's huge. And that's probably about as specific as I can be while still useful, because I don't know you who's listening to this and all the mechanics of your business. But that little shift from us charging for consulting and education to it's free provided you're a merchant made a massive difference. Lesson number two that I would say was massive. And again, I'm still a work in progress, still learning and working myself, is being able to foster and trust partners in growth. So there's no chance in the world that I would be able to effectively be a one man show for even just these three portfolio companies that I've mentioned, let alone our nonprofit foundation that we've got too. There's not a chance that I could just do these things myself. I'm not smart enough, don't have that many hands, don't have that much time in the day. However, I spent years and years being a one man show and believing that, if something has to be done right, I got to do it myself. Biggest thing was learning how to actually find great potential, provide a container for them to really grow into their gifts and trust them to steer the ship. That's been probably one of the biggest things. On a day-to-day on a day-to-day term, I don't do all that much in these companies. I do more things like this, right? And looking for the next big deal or way that we can, create synergistic partnerships. But the day to day is all managed now by my partners. I've got a full time team of 8, and we're bringing on a couple more people over this next month. And without them, I would be a complete mess. Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about this team though. All right,
Let's
so a
do it.
team of 8. Now, how are you finding A plus players? Because we hear different things from different people. Some people are like, well, hey, I go overseas. I use Eastern Europe people. I use Latin people. I use people from the Philippines. I use US people. Um, Regardless, I think we can all agree on that. As long as they are performing at a high level, that part's irrelevant. What are some characteristics that you found are like, hey, I've noticed among all my team, these 3 characteristics have led to us being able to sustain our growth, surpass it, and they're a great team member.
Um, well, first things first, I mean, I probably way overpay my team because I want them to always view themselves as true partners or owners in where we're going. And could I possibly find laborers for far cheaper and have bigger margins? Sure. But it's of no interest to me to be a genius with 1,000 hands. I mean, frankly, I'm ruled out already because I'm neither a genius nor do I have 1,000 hands. But that's how a lot of people try to run their business, right? Is they're the only one doing any thinking, and then they try to delegate to those who don't have capacity to think but only do, and they become a glorified babysitter. I don't have the wherewithal to do that. I steal a lot of thought processes from Mr. Rockefeller. Actually, it was number one is in his new employee training manual. I'll try and quote it as verbatim as I can. You could probably Google it and prove me wrong in exactly the verbiage. But essentially, he said it should be every man's moral imperative that he would replace himself in his position as soon as humanly possible, such that he has nothing but time to put his feet up and think about how to make standard more money. And that one actually really resonated with me. Again, could I find, a cheap labor source? Sure. And I've done those things in the past for like menial tasks and things, but I don't want to be on the hook for managing that. So what I've instead done is found, like I kind of mentioned earlier, just world class, very smart thinkers that actually think about things completely different than I do. There's not one necessarily like common character trait among my team members aside from a relentless like intrinsic work ethic. That's the one thing that's a non-negotiable, is you just got to be willing to work and have a bias towards efficiency. But the cool thing is, like, Brett is extremely analytical, Hunter is highly emotional, but together they create a well-rounded leadership team for our dental division. if we have everyone always thinking the same way, we create an echo chamber in the same way that like social media does, where everyone always sees exactly what they're thinking and confirmation bias kicks in, and then we never accomplish anything meaningful because both sides of the bridge don't communicate. And so we just confirm what we think and we never grow. Our team challenges each other on a daily basis because we think about things different. And so I know it can be super enticing as someone is looking to, bring on a partner or an employee or things like this to look for people just like them because we all think we're great, right? So if someone's like me, well then they must be great. Look for someone that completes you, a complementary opposite of sorts that can challenge your thought processes. And so then you can come to a mutual decision that is of a higher caliber than you could have thought of on your own. That's the biggest thing that's helped me with sourcing from a standpoint of building and collaborating. It's really giving responsibility and trusting that as long as you have the right person and you have good systems in place for tracking and KPI management and all the things that are just a standard no brainer, like you have to have, processes and stuff, but trusting that they can actually innovate and giving them the reins, saying like, look, this is the goal that needs to be accomplished. This is the timeline in which it must be accomplished. Here's a way that it could happen, but I invite you to innovate and find your most efficient path forward, because what matters is the outcome, not necessarily the process. And I believe you to be capable of potentially coming up with a better process. A real world, way to think about that. Bill Gates was on record as saying, I always give my hardest tasks to my laziest employees because I know inevitably they'll find the most efficient way to accomplish it. And then I just document that process and that becomes our standard operating procedure. So I like to defer responsibility in a intelligent way to team members to innovate and find their own better solutions. Because again, neither genius nor do I have 1,000 hands. I can't be the one responsible for doing all the thinking.
That was a lot of wisdom drop right there. So finding the right partnerships that are going in the same direction that can help you to streamline or be more efficient. And then also, I never heard that quote before about give it to the laziest person, because I would think I don't want to give it to them because they may mess it up. But that's counterintuitive, but it's smart because they're going to figure out a way to make it efficient.
Well, if they accomplish the goal, if not, fire them. But yeah, yeah.
Okay. I like that.
If
All
you're
right.
also the type A, that thrives, that wears the badge of honor of hard work, then just do the hardest way to get it done, because then they feel a sense of significance in having worked hard. I don't care about necessarily like the hard work. I care about the outcome. And so if we can find a more efficient way to get there, I'm all for it. I don't think that it's any more rewarding if we're just thinking in terms of a vacation. I don't think you're going to enjoy your vacation more if you walked cross country over the course of months versus you flew there in a plane. I'd rather just fly there in a plane and enjoy my vacation because the outcome is the outcome.
And I think that's important too. Me and a buddy were talking about that last week about we get so caught up in, like you said, that babysitting factor where it's like, what did you do? Did you do ABC versus here's the desired outcome? You need to do whatever you can legally that makes sense to get to the desired outcome. So, like in our case, we're doing month end close for all of our clients, of course, wrapping up the prior month. Well, hey, it doesn't matter how we get there. All I know is by the 10th business day, financials need to be complete and I need to have signed off so that we can send them to the client. If that means you do it all in 2 days, I don't care. If it takes you 9, I don't care. I just know by day 10. It needs to be completed. I need to have signed off on it and okayed it. No changes need to be made, and it can be sent to the client. How we get there is irrelevant. And like you said, do we have our processes? Yes, like do this, download bank statements, reconcile this so that it ties out, etc. So there's some checkpoints they can use, but they may do it two different ways. They may do it completely different than me. That's irrelevant. Do we get there? Other than that, do what y'all need to do because, like you said, I'm out here trying to shake more hands, meet more people, get more people on the podcast to get more value, find more clients, speak on different stages. Like there's that. So hopefully what you guys got from that, outside of the fact that he's very detailed, is that it's important to be able to think outcome driven results, not just do ABC, check it. Because then you're just gonna build some robots that don't think, and you don't want that. You don't want
Mm-mm.
that. Okay, let's keep going into our questions. So now we've talked about growing the team, how you grew so quickly. We know that this can happen without somebody helping you with the finances. So I asked you before we started, do you have like a CFO or an accountant, somebody that's helping you? And you said yes. Can you tell us what are maybe some of the things that they're suggesting to help you to continue to grow? Because if they're worth 2 cents, they're going to say, hey, I noticed blah, blah, blah. I think you should be aware of or try or do this. What are some of those cool things they may be sharing with you right now?
Yeah. Um, I mean, all of the basic stuff, right? Like, if if your people aren't at least talking to you about like proper entity structure and payroll management and all those things, then it's like, what's going on here in the first place? So all the basic stuff, but what I've been really getting pushed on, which is good because for me it's more confirmation. I haven't found the exact opportunity that fits my criteria yet, is to be leaning more into acquisitions. So up to this point, I mean, we've built what we have, but frankly, if I could give away 50% of my knowledge and experience base in sales in exchange for an instant download of just 10% of of Cody Sanchez brain on mergers and acquisitions, I would 100% do it.
Shout out to Cody. She's like,
Cody is amazing. Love Cody. And so I would make that trade all day, every day, because I believe that that's the direction in which we're going. And I tend to go down rabbit holes without doing that this time. We're really leaning into this year acquisitions, right? Just from a standpoint of growth and efficiency, it's the only thing that really makes sense for us to get to that next level. So being pushed in that, I'm going to have to lean on her heavily. Elena is her name, my CPA and accountant. She does a similar kind of like virtual CFO. She's integral for us, because otherwise I would go off to Pluto and not know where money's going.
there you go. Shout out to Elena. We show love here. Shout out to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But I think, why is this happening?
Oh man.
Okay, y'all, sinuses are terrible. Anyway, but back to her. So yes, to your point, like, and we've started helping clients with that as well. And just to kind of tie the audience in, just so they can keep getting value here, I think it's super important to look at some of everything in regards to acquiring another business. What does that look like? And I tell the two that we just help buy businesses, hey, you need to look at their financials because there's a story there. Yeah, they may say they're making $1 million, but what are they keeping? What are they taking home? What does their cash flow look like? Because you can make $1 million, but if you spent 950, do
Mm-hmm.
I really want to buy that business? We've even talked about with different episodes of the podcast about looking at that long term customer growth. Like, are customers just staying with you for 3 months and leaving? Are they staying with you for 3 or 4 years? Like, what does that look like? How is your pricing structure? When we buy the business, is everybody going to stay? Like, there's so many different components to buying a business and acquiring it. So utilize your accountant, which is what he's saying. Utilize them so that they can tell you, like, hey, I know you're interested, but I don't think this is the best move, or we should look at a different company because, or do we even have, let's say they want 500 grand. Well, to your point, how do we get 5 grand? Do we need to go get capital for somebody? Do we go get a line of credit? Do we have the cash saved to do it? Like, what does that look like? So I think that was very key and some good advice that she told you.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it. And frankly, maybe you and I should have some more conversations over these next couple months, because yeah, it's the way that we're going. It's
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, like everybody's different, and we tell people this all the time when we get on like discovery calls. we always tell people we try not to knock other accountants, right? But everybody knows, because I've said it on the podcast multiple times, I personally think the accounting industry is doing a disservice to our clients because we think, hey, if I give you this income statement or balance sheet, that's so much value. It's not. Like, we give it to our clients and they'd be like, oh, okay, thank you. You
Hmm.
didn't read it, you didn't look at it. So the value is given beyond that. But I think as long as we can continue to do that and go deeper, and I think that's the misconception. People think bookkeepers that you're paying $350 a month, oh, they're why aren't they forward thinking? They just do the bare minimum. That's what they were taught to do. Of course, everybody knows like these are office supplies. You don't need me to tell you that. You know what I'm saying? But to your point, hey, I need you to go look at this financials. Are they even worth purchasing? Like, do they have cash? Oh no. They got 4 credit cards that are all above 30 grand. They're taking all these draws and distributions. They're not really running payroll, etc. It's like you can get into all that, but that's not going to be a bookkeeper. That's either going to be a really, really solid accountant or somebody who's doing more of the fractional CFO stuff that can analyze and really break down the numbers to really give you that clear picture, bring that back to you so you can be like, we want to grow and acquire, but not your business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's crazy, man. It still blows my mind to think about the fact that of 12 businesses for sale over the course of a year, one of them sells. That's
Well,
it.
okay, let's go there. Why do you think it's crazy?
Well, compare it to something like another asset that we're conditioned to, right? Real estate. It's an asset. Most millionaires own a bunch of real estate, right? So, what do I want to do? I want to acquire these assets. Well, if you have a neighborhood where 12 houses are for sale and it takes an entire year and only one of them sells, that's pretty crazy. Now, imagine if that
Facts.
one house that sold on owner financing for little to no money out of pocket. That'd be
Facts.
even crazier. And that's how businesses are. That's how it is, which means many of these, you know, uh, family owned, small, whatever, they're just closing up shop, not even able
Selling.
to liquidate and sell. It's sad. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
and see, we've heard because, like I said, we get into that a lot. If y'all have listened to prior episodes, I mean, you can talk to Justin, Brad, Karen, JC, Gary, like a bunch of people, and I mean, it still comes back to the basics. Yeah, our clients aren't looking at the financials, but to your point, that's not even your job. Hey, I got you on my team for that. Here, I'm gonna tell me whatever you need and get that information that you come up with back to me. But I think it's because on the other side to this, if I'm struggling, then I may not have the cash. Of course, I'm strapped with debt and got credit, which we all believe in leveraging your credit, your loans or credits to get where you need to go.
Oh,
But
good.
there
We're not
becomes
Dave
a point
Ramsey
where,
Maxis.
huh?
I said good. We're not Dave Ramsey Maxis. Good.
And shout out to Dave Ramsey. But I personally believe that Dave Ramsey's not for business owners because Dave Ramsey is operating from the philosophy of you only have easy numbers. You only got 5 grand a month to pay all your bills. Well, yeah, the only way to generate freedom is you have to cut in order to free up money. But like I told my wife, because she tried that, I think it was a year or two ago, she was like, why don't we try that? I'm like, outside of asking why did she think that was a great idea, I was like, well, Ari, you got to remember those situations don't apply to us because I can go make more money whenever I want to. I mean, within reason. Like, I can't just be like, hey, let's print up some more money like the government. But I can go sign a customer. Like, we're about to do a tax return for a client that has like 5 or 6 different businesses and all these different complicated structures for like $4,500. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying as in like I can go do one deal and make X amount more money, or what people may make in a whole month, I can make in one deal. So those things don't apply to us as business owners because it's not just about cut. You gonna cut your Starbucks for what? That's not gonna help you. That's only $25 this month you per week you save.
Yeah.
Stop it. We can go sign a client and make 7 or 8 times that. So it's different things, but I think the key thing that you were talking about is these businesses aren't doing what you said, right? You were talking about knowing top of the line and having these systems and processes. They're selling for some reason. Either somebody got sick, they just don't want to do it anymore. That was their plan to exit in the first place, whatever the case. But if the business is not presentable, if it doesn't look sexy enough to buy, that's what you're saying. Hey, we checked it out. Like in using your home analogy, your stuff's not updated. Your floors look terrible. You got carpet everywhere, some dents in the walls. Like, we don't want to buy that. Versus, we've seen businesses, finances are up to date. People are like, okay, you're signing off on it, Cam. You're good. Let's go for it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's uh, it's going to be a wild world over the next few years. I really think with such big brains like Cody and like Alex also doing this too.
You talking about Hormozy?
Yeah, I
Shout
think
out to
it's going to be
Hormozy.
really, yeah, I think it's going to be really inspiring for so many people who just wish that they could have had, more control over their circumstance, and maybe just don't have, because it takes a lot to build from scratch, right?
Yeah,
It
but
takes
I also counter that and think it's going to be more dangerous too, because the people like Hormozy and Cody know what they're doing.
for sure.
So, and I think we talked about this on our episode with JC, where he was like, we'll strategically look for an asset that's undervalued because we know when we bring them into our system and infrastructure, that's an automatic add of X amount times however many clients to revenue. And just upon that, we've just made it a profitable deal. So I think it's going to be dangerous from the standpoint of me trying to sell it. I'm not going to get as much of a multiple on it because my stuff wasn't in the best situation to start with. Like, oh, I make 500 grand a year. To this other accounting firm, they may be like, if I take that, keep the brand, if I raise prices by $500 and add these services in, even if a third drop, like, I think it's going to be dangerous from the standpoint that you as the seller may not get as much money as you could have because your stuff wasn't up to date in the way that it should be.
From a seller's perspective, totally. And, I don't disagree with that. What I'm more thinking along the lines of is, when I was coming up in sales and learning how to influence and sell, the option was basically like hire a coach, take a course, or work for someone. And likely it was all three. Well, I did all of it. And frankly, by far and away, the most impactful thing for me was, we come back to this principle of aligned incentives. It was by working for someone who I genuinely wanted to learn from, not paying them for consulting. It's funny, right? Like, the best sales coach that I knew at the time, his name's Eli. He has the Eli Award at the Tony Robbins Foundation because he outsold the rest of the team combined for 10 years straight. It was pretty cool. Well, he had a sales training course and coaching and all that stuff, but I actually just went and worked for him. And he mentored me over the course of 3 years on a daily basis, because every dollar that I brought into the business impacted his bottom line. As a client, I could have paid him once, but I paid him multiple times a day with sales that I brought in, right? So that's what taught me at light speed versus the slow route. And I think that the opportunity that people are going to have to come in with a business that already exists, with an owner that could potentially work with them and mentor them over the course of 6 months as they acquire it, so they develop that knowledge base, it's going to be so much faster. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, people actually taking full control and authority over how they set up their income streams. Because if we don't continue to grow and operate these quote unquote small businesses, ultimately it's going to end up like the movie Idiocracy, where, Costco is a mile long and everything is in this massive conglomerate and no one can do anything for themselves anymore, right? BlackRock will just own it all. We need to all take responsibility while we still can, and build something or acquire something and make it our own and really steward it, right? Because we still have so much opportunity, but I really feel like that door is starting to close on us as we all get complacent and lazy and just look for the next handout. So now I'm going way off to left field, but if that was for one person, it's worth saying because I mean, I grew up with very little, almost nothing, except my parents loved me, which was probably the biggest asset that I could have had, but not much from a material standpoint, right? I actually viewed it as a big blessing because it compelled struggle. I think we need to struggle a little bit. We need to take responsibility. We need to see what happens when we don't so that we can have the polarity to that. And I really want a world in which we can create our own freedom. And that's still possible. So I hope if you're listening, if anything has resonated, take some action on it because ideas are great, but they're cheap. It's the work that brings it to life. That's what matters, right?
Ideas are cheap. I like that. All right, let's go rapid fire because we want to respect your time. We know you got to go manage the three empires. Rapid fire. First off, we see the ring. So shout out to Wifey. Tell us between balancing all three of the companies, like what are some things you guys do to stay intentional so that she, still feels all the love and the affection and appreciation? What are some, like, is it a weekly date night or like we do pancakes every Saturday, or what do you guys do?
I love that. Our honestly, our biggest thing is daily walks. It's our walks that are the most connective for us. We do miss the beach walks from a couple years ago when we lived on the coast, but now we've got some acreage, so we hike around, and that's the big thing. Little
Okay.
walks for the little talks.
Okay. Little walk for some little talks. I like that. All right. If you can get in a time machine, you get 30 seconds to go back in time, knowing everything you know present day in 2024. You get to go back in time to the college or high school version of you. What do you tell them? Yeah. Good question.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I could rapid fire that one.
I'll help you out. So we've had
Build a
people.
business. That's the thing. I was always entrepreneurial as a kid, and I actually had a lacrosse stringing company in high school that I let go, even though we were making not like crazy money or anything, but just we were making some money doing our own thing. I got a job working construction, and it I just focused on that, and then I took basically like a 5 year hiatus before I did a business again. So I would tell him, yo, dude, you actually have something figured out here. Focus on what you can create for yourself, not what you can do for someone else's business. I would definitely do that.
Okay. Okay. How has your definition of success changed from when you got started versus present day?
Oh, 180. I used to have a picture on my desktop and my my phone of a red Porsche Cayman because that was the pinnacle of success for me. And materials have done nothing to make me feel successful, but it's actually the time freedom with the community that we've built out here, both family and friends. That's what feels successful to me is when we're able to, any day of the week, just take off and go do something together and not be stressed about the money, but just focus on each other.
Okay. All right. Now we've gotten to the end of the show. This is your time. Tell the people if they want to connect with you, what social medias, website, tell them what you do so they may be like, this dude is cool. I want to increase my, in 90 to 120 days, I want to increase my money too. So tell them, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they connect? This is your time to shine.
Sure. If you're a business in the online education agency course, or you are a dental practice or a home improvement company and you're looking for better customer financing solutions, you can go to freelifefunding.com. But if you're just looking to increase your earning potential, learn how to influence and sell and create a compelling buying experience for your customers, regardless of what industry you're in, I've dropped a lot of free resources on YouTube. All you got to do is type in my name, Grant Eilertson, Eilertson. I know that's a pain in the butt to spell, uh, is what it is. But you'll find plenty of free resources out there online. That's about it. I mean, if you resonated with what I had to share here and you wanted to become one of our merchants, it won't be that hard for you to find a way to. Our team does a lot of marketing, and you'll probably get hit with a Facebook ad at some point. But if it's just a matter of connecting and learning, I'm on most of the social media platforms at this name, so feel free to reach out, and I would love to connect with you.
All right, guys, there you go right there. So, with all that being said, thank you so much, Grant, for coming on. I hope you guys got some good takeaways from this about in trying to purchase another business. What should you be looking for? Like, what should be your mindset? Thinking future based, thinking about outcomes for your team and not just a checklist. Even talking about in how he was smart enough to make sure all of his companies helped each other. Not like they're three completely separate things, which you can do that if you want to, but how his all support each other to point all in the same direction to better help the client. And when you're focusing on giving the client value, you'll get a lot further. If you want to focus on helping them make more money, then that will be what will allow you to make more money. So, again, Grant, thank you so much for coming on. Any last words to close us out?
I just appreciate it, Cameron. This has been fun.
All right, man. So until the next time, y'all, we're going to do our hard work. We're going to keep finding you guys great guests that can come on, share different perspectives, insights as they've grown, acquired businesses, gotten into partnerships, grown their team from just themselves to 8 people, 10, however many. What was life like before and after they made the $1 million? What are some of the things they will watch out for? Or if they could do it over again, what would they do? That's what we're going to get into here for you guys. So, as always, thank you guys so much. Make sure you share this episode, like it, subscribe it, show us some love there on all the platforms. Until the next time we see you, stay safe. Peace.